long cascade down here. Now let's look at it a little more. 1,430 years. And this I wanted you to see because this is the period of history that we all know the most about. And strangely enough, the wave is very willing to make predictions in this region of history. This is one of those levels of magnification where the ebb and flow of novelty is predicted as very radical and highly punctuated. So, he looks for his crib sheet here. So when you go through this and you're trying to understand what's going on, you're supposed to have novelty occurring at the bottoms of these troughs. Well, this one in the 930s, in the 10th century, is the culmination of Islam, the creation of the caliphates of Baghdad, and this was the one where Europe gets left out. All this mathematics and poetry and alchemy is being created down here. Then there's a series of bounce-offs, recidivist tendencies, until you get over to this one, which is about 1119. And what this is all about is it's the height of the Gothic revival and of the Crusades. The people who are active in the bottom of that thing are people like Bernard of Clairvaux, Peter Lombard, Eleanor of Aquitaine, Thomas of Becket, Pope Adrian IV, all those folks famous from Masterpiece Theater. They were all happening right down there. So, then the next steep descent into novelty is this one here in 1354, 56. Well, this was the greatest demographic catastrophe that Europe ever experienced. It was the Black Death. A third of the population of Europe died there. Okay, well then this one, this very steep plunge into novelty, the top up here is 1440. Gutenberg is inventing printing in Mainz near Frankfurt. And by the time you get to the bottom down here, it's 1492. The entire Italian Renaissance lies on the gradient of that plunge. So you see what the argument is, and it seems to emerge with more clarity as we have more data, is that history is actually some kind of process on a vast scale that is under the control of this particular mathematical algorithm for some reason. I mean, this is the fractal dimension of the historical unfolding of the experience of the species. What you get down here is the discovery of the New World, the lost half of the planet, and that sets off a round of discovery and exploration that keeps things novel for a while. But then slavery gets reestablished and a whole bunch of bad social habits take root, and it pushes it clear back up to here. But then this is the beginning of the European Enlightenment, and it descends very rapidly with then the American Revolution, the French Revolution, and the Napoleonic Restoration, all down in the bottom of this trough. Well, then let's go forward just a little bit more. The 20th century is coming up. Now, there it is. Now, remember how I called it history's fractal mountain, and we looked at it on a scale of 4,000 years? Well, it was this signature, or something very like it, with just slight scaling differences. Within the 20th century, from 1945 to 2012, we're recapitulating in some weird way all the themes of the previous 4,306-year cycle. So, for instance, the way this game is played is, remember I said that we had the old riverine empires down coming along this gradient, and that down here we got the Egyptian cultural manifestation. Well, now we're looking at the 20th century. We're seeing the resonances of the Egyptian cultural manifestation, and we see that they reached their culmination in 1933 to 36. So what this is saying is that the quality of this trough is a millenarian cult based on the deification of a leader figure, coupled with a hysterical obsession with tasteless architecture. And we see this set of themes played out both in Pharaonic Egypt and in the Third Reich, of course. I mean, and once you see that one is the resonance of the other, you see, of course, that's clearly what was going on. Well, then remember I said that the great turning point in human history was when the Mycenaean pirates squashed the Minoan goddess-loving folks and set off the cultural cascade of Greco-Roman civilization. Well, in this scheme of things, that moment happens right up here in early 1967. And, of course, if you lived through that moment, you know that, there was a kind of pagan revival right there, which then got smashed, and then we rode our way down into this long set of cascades into then the wild oscillation of the present. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about a little bit tonight is how we've actually entered into a new kind of time. It began about 3 or 4 years ago, 2 years ago, depending. What it has to do with is, for a long time we were on a descending gradient into ever greater novelty as we approached this asymptotically increasing novelty. Now we are so close to it that we have begun to oscillate around a mean. And this explains, the end of the Cold War, the breakup of the Soviet Union, a number of things. And we are going to live in this kind of time unto the culmination of the time wave itself, which occurs in 2012. The time wave is unable to make predictions past 2012 AD. One observation is its self-limiting property, because as a fractal description of a data field, it only works if you assume that the whole thing wraps